it is a little bit more than 20 days until Donald Trump becomes the president again. Nightmare. But Joe Biden is still working hard and making sure that he's doing everything he can to not only protect his legacy, but protect the most vulnerable among us. And that means also doing something that I don't think many people have really thought about and really taken in at how important it is that he did it. And that is that
Biden commuting the sentences of 37 of the 40 federal prisoners currently on death row, commuting those sentences to life without parole. Now, this comes, of course, before the president-elect who supports capital punishment takes office. The Trump transition team calling the move a, quote, abhorrent decision, adding that it benefits those, quote, among the worst killers in the world.
Now, he did not pardon them. They're still going to be in prison for the rest of their lives, but the government is not going to kill them. And I think that's really important. And that's mainly because Donald Trump is a crazy person who has been saying that he wants to kill as many people as possible. He's been saying that about drug dealers. He's been saying it now about child traffickers.
When I am back in the White House, I will immediately end the Biden border nightmare that traffickers are using to exploit vulnerable women and children. We will fully secure the border. I will wage war on the cartels just as I destroyed the ISIS caliphate, 100% gone, 100% destroyed. They'll come back now because we have a weak administration. I will use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home countries and without delay. And I will urge Congress to ensure that anyone caught trafficking children across our border receives the death penalty immediately.
Say what you will about these sorts of people and the crimes that they commit, but Donald Trump really does come across as bloodthirsty. But let's talk about real quick about what this means and why Joe Biden did it, because there was a hint in what he said that alluded to this being more than just commuting the sentences of people so they don't die, but also about protecting Donald Trump's worst instincts from people who can't protect themselves. So here's the statement. I've dedicated my career to reducing violent crime and ensuring a fair and effective justice system. Today, I'm commuting the sentences of 37 of the 40 individuals on federal death row to life sentences without the possibility of parole. These commutations are consistent with the moratorium my administration has imposed on federal executions in cases other than terrorism and hate-motivated mass murder. Make no mistake, I condemn these murderers, grieve for the victims of their despicable acts, and ache for all the families who have suffered unimaginable, irreparable loss. But guided by my conscience and my experience as a public defender, chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Vice President, and now President, I am more convinced than ever that we must stop the use of the death penalty at the federal level. In good conscience, I cannot stand back and let a new administration resume executions that I halted. So Biden had originally halted these, but then when Trump got elected, he decided he needed to do something more to make sure these folks didn't die. And I just want to say, I've been debating talking about this. This is not something I talk about very often, but my sister was murdered when I was 25. She was 22. It is truly one of the worst things. It is one of the worst things I have ever experienced, ever. And I cannot imagine wanting that on anyone else. Now, I don't know if any of you have ever experienced grief before. That is really the only time I have ever experienced grief like that and a tragedy like that. But grief, when it is unexpected and overwhelming, does consume you in a way that is almost the only way I can describe it, is that it is like a feeling of sickness you carry with you that you never know when it's going to eventually leave, if it's ever going to leave. And it's also this sickness that grief is like needing to constantly throw up, but you're not throwing up. You're just crying non-stop, just sobbing. I always felt that the grief I felt from the unexpected passing of my sister at the hands of someone else. Murder is terrible. Death is terrible. Grief like that is unthinkable and is such a tragedy. I cannot imagine wanting to put that on another family. I just don't believe personally that taking someone else's life because you took the life of someone I love makes anything better for anyone. Then you have that person's family also share. It just it expands the pain. It expands the pain. And so my belief has always been the death penalty is wrong because it's not doing justice for anyone. Okay, so I was not expecting to share that, but that is why I feel the way I feel about the death penalty. But now here is a Harvard professor talking about also from her point of view why this was so important that Joe Biden did this before Trump got into office.
There are all sorts of challenges to the death penalty that have been growing over the years. The concern that innocent people are being executed, the profound disparities between black and white people who wind up on death row. Even the public support for the death penalty has waned. So I think that what President Biden did was exactly right. It's interesting. He was actually a prime sponsor of the 1994 crime bill, which led to additional federal death penalties. So what's interesting is that the facts have moved him, and as they should all of us.
And then here she is explaining how Donald Trump actually fast forwarded the process to make sure more people died when they were on death row.
Well, we know the last time that there were, I think it was 13 executions, which his orders had hastened. And we know that among that group were people with intellectual disabilities. We know among that group one woman in particular who had suffered extraordinary abuse. I mean, these were executions that were done with, in my view, unseemly haste to get them through. And given the kinds of problems with the death penalty, it should give all of us pause. We know that the death penalty is not a meaningful deterrent. The concerns for victims, which are very important, are oftentimes exacerbated by death penalty prosecutions, which last years and years and years. In the Boston bomber case, for example, one of the victims, the family of one of the victims, urged the court to, in fact, allow him to plead guilty to life without parole so it could be over. So I would be very troubled by another sort of rush to kill people.
Me too. I don't want to kill people. And here is Donald Trump. Here's what he said on Christmas Day to the folks who got their sentences commuted, saying he said, "Merry Christmas, blah, 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 blah. To the 37 violent criminals who killed, raped, and plundered like virtually no one before them, but were just given incredibly a pardon by sleepy Joe Biden. Not true. He commuted their sentences, not a pardon. I refuse to wish a Merry Christmas to those lucky souls, but instead will say, go to hell." Well, you know what, Trump? You can go to hell because you are a soulless, heartless man, and I despise you. So thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, please hit like in the video. If you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. It's the best way to help the channel, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much.